Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship has returned to Atlantic Motorsport Park after a devastating storm washed away the 2023 Atlantic round. Three-time Canada Cup champion Ben Young knows these twists and turns like the back of his hand, but in Shubenacadie, anything is possible. Helmet strapped, gloves on, let's go racing in Nova Scotia. Marshall Ferguson alongside Colin Fraser as we are getting set for round 4, race number 7 in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class here. And it is, of course, presented to you by Pro Cycle and Canadian Kawasaki Motors. It was a really, really strong qualification once again for Ben Young. He captures the season title, his 4th straight qualification award, but that was in the dry and the heat.
Well, Ben does not share well with the other students, and we have 2 more events left to go, and he's already clinched the pole bonus award. Very interesting qualifying, a lot of concerns and doubts about the quality of the surface. This track has been heavily reconfigured. Ben believes the track is slightly faster. He's about a 10th faster than last time, but then the weather changed, and suddenly those dry times don't mean anything. We're moving to the full wet Bridgestones, or at least we think we're moving to the full wet Bridgestones.
Torrential downpour here in Shubenacadie on Thursday, dried out on Friday for qualification, and now, well, it's Saturday and the rain has returned once again.
Here we look at our grid, but the big thing to talk about is the brief 5-minute wet warm-up we had. The fastest rider was Sam Garin, so he has the best understanding of conditions. Dumas, who qualified second, was second fastest on that Ducati. Everybody's trying to figure out what the best bet is on tires because the back half of the track is much drier than the front.
Who will be willing to take the gamble and who will be able to make it pay off? That is the question as we see row number 5, Paul McDonald, Alex Michel, and Brian Wursdahl alongside Ernest Birdhart round things out here at Atlantic Motorsport Park.
Here we are looking at the track. The map looks flat, but boy, when you're there in person, it is nothing like flat. And the back straight's called the roller coaster because of all that change in elevation. There's been a fair amount of work done on the track. Turn 2 heavily reconfigured, more runoff, some new pavement, some debate about whether that pavement has really improved things.
Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter Sarah Said with more ahead of lights out.
Thanks, guys. Samuel Garin has faced some challenges coming into round 4 of the Bridgestone CSBK Championship here in Shubenacadie. Yesterday, the front runner crashed his BMW M1000RR at the very end of qualifying. He could have finished right at the front with Ben Young, but was surpassed by Alex Dumas and Jordan Zoke at the very last few minutes, leaving him in 4th position. And today, though his pace had been good in practice, this morning he crashed again. Thankfully, Garin is okay, though he said he was not exactly sure what happened in practice and was quite frustrated at the outcome. Currently, defending champion Ben Young is first in the championship standings with Garin in second, and Garin will be looking to close the gap with Young this weekend. Back to you guys.
We've reached the midway point of the 2024 Bridgestone CSBK season, 22 laps down to 18, and we are full throttle at Atlantic Motorsport Park. Jordan Zoke looks down the inside of turn 1 as everyone feels out the wet after the quick practice session. It is Zoke in first ahead of Ben Young.
Yeah, Ben sort of left the door open. I think he was just a little careful. I'm not sure where Sam Garin's going, right around the concrete patch there and way to the outside and definitely exploiting some different plan.
Yeah, Sam Garin is taking a different line right now. I wonder about perhaps tire selection. We'll get a look at that when we get the opportunity, but for now it's Zoke heading down to the bottom of the hill in turn 4.
Dumas on the Ducati in 4th, and gotta mention Connor Campbell on that ex-Zoke Kawasaki. He's been having a bumpy ride this season, but this is a great effort. Now have a look here, Marshall. The track is already partially dry as we head onto the roller coaster.
And is that a slick on the back of Sam Garin, Colin?
Yep, that is absolutely a Bridgestone slick. We had a good look at the Bridgestone Groove tire of Ben Young, and there you can see Garin's bike shaking just a little bit, and Zoke stalling away in the lead, and Garin wide. That may be just because of him trying to avoid the wettest patches.
So now Zoke out in front. It is Alex Dumas Up into second as Young has fallen back into fourth. Putting a charge into Grand right now is the Van Dolders home team BMW of Ben Young. And one of the more spectacular corners here. There's lots of them at AMP, but up this hill and back onto the front straight we go.
And once again, Sam Gray on a completely different line on the very edge of the track, trying some different things. You saw some lightning in the background there. Dumas exploiting perhaps the advantage of the mid-range torque of the Ducati to get the most out of those Bridgestone tires. I believe most of the riders are on, well there, that's a good look at Dumas. He's definitely on a groove tire, so is Jordan Zoke. Of course, Zoke, the guy most likely to gamble on tires, as Dumas tries to squirt by on the outside. That's good racing.
Side by side they go here in the damp conditions as Ben Young sits in third, Garan in fourth, and Connor Campbell all the way up into fifth on his Kawasaki right now as Dumas down the inside does take away the top spot.
Yeah, you got to look in the back there. Sixth place is Phil de Gama Blanchette on a Kawasaki 636, a sport bike in amongst the Superbikes. Great shot of Jordan, who's definitely riding to the conditions. He has so much experience in these sorts of conditions, and also on this track he's had so many fantastic wins, including once crashing and coming back to win about 22 years ago.
Dumas holds off Zoke to this point through the lap with Young in third. It's obviously incredibly variable with the conditions, but what is the strategy of Sam Garan here, knowing that he has that slick rear on, Colin?
I think it's just to try and hang in until you get that dry line, but you really, right now, no one's pushing that hard because they're trying to gauge the conditions based on the guy in front of them, and you get what's sometimes called an after you Alphonse, right? Like, let's see what the guy ahead does, and if he seems safe, I'll pick it up by 1/10 of a second and see what happens. But yeah, this many guys are still this close together, and Garan, I think Campbell's right behind him trying to figure out, is Garan onto something, or is that a line only he can use? Because don't forget, it's hard to tell what the other guys are doing for tires.
Garan hoping this track dries out, but it's Alex Dumas out in front on his Economy Lube Ducati, back in the series and back in the lead. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Canadian Kawasaki Motors, Pro Cycle, and Gulf Race Fuels. Closed captioning for the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by AIM Insurance, MotorcycleCourse.com, Supersonic Road Race School, and Revs for Red. Welcome back to Atlantic Motorsport Park. It is lap number 4 of 18 in a rain-shortened race here as they continue to make their way through the puddles, but Colin, it does look like it's drying out considerably as this race goes on already.
Yeah, and Zoke is going after Dumas. You can see some spray coming off the rear Bridgestone rain tire on Zoke's Kawasaki Ninja, but as the conditions change, remember the tires will show a lot of wear. These rain tires are very soft. However, riding into the wear is much easier because the tire's holding a lot of heat, so there's still a lot of traction. Remember, the street bike tire you ride on has tread, so it's not the end of the world, but definitely isn't as good as the slick. Garan has a slick on the back.
You can really see the drying there on the outside of the final corner, up over the top of the hill as they begin lap number 5. And of note and intrigue, of course, Sam Garan on that slick rear is great battling here in the top 3 through turn number 1. And you see Garan trying to go around the outside for second. As I was just about to mention his lap times, he's gotten faster each of these first 4 laps.
And he surprised our points leader, Ben Young, who was trying to make a move on Zoke. And here Garan just motors around the entire pack, and he's coming after. He's done. He got by.
Down the hill.
I think Dumas had some kind of problem because Zoke's on top of him now too as we head for the roller coaster once again. And now Sam Garan is leading. And remember, he won not that long ago at Grand Bend.
He's almost 2 seconds faster on lap number 4 than he was on lap number 1 or 2, as we see the onboard looking backwards from the Economy Lube Ducati towards the EFC Group BMW, and there goes Garan.
This is the tightest turn on the track. There's a big concrete patch on the inside. You have to be careful, and Garan's just motoring around the outside, definitely doing some different things, and of course he has to concern himself with how he maintains the tires when he has 2 completely different constructions on the front and the back of that BMW.
Jordan Zoke, of course, the all-time great here in Bridgestone CSBK, but the savvy veteran riding right now of Sam Garan has him in the lead.
If you saw that stationary cam, McDonald in 8th was part of that lead group, so it's really packed, just over 2 seconds there. Remarkable, and this shows you everybody's kind of pacing themselves based on the guy in front. And as I mentioned, Campbell really has to be wondering because he's seen every different kind of thing you can. Oh, look, I don't know if you saw that. De Gama Blanchette was trying Campbell on the outside.
Philip De Gama Blanchette trying to charge his way all the way up into 5th. Great pace for the young Westerner here in Nova Scotia as Zoke continues to look forward at Sam Garand. Meanwhile, Dumas and Ben Young, look, they're close to getting into a clash against one another as Garand powers his way through. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
Thanks, guys. Local rider John Fraser decided not to participate in the first race after a challenging practice this morning. This was set to be Fraser's season debut here at his home track at Atlantic Motorsport Park, but he opted out after feeling not physically ready enough to compete. Fraser had suffered a serious injury a few weeks ago and was still recovering when he crashed here on Thursday on the back straight in the rain, destroying a bike. And since, he hasn't been feeling his best. Fraser was set to ride Alex Dumas' former bike, a Suzuki GSXR 1000, and was expected to land himself at the front this weekend due to his familiarity with the track, but ultimately was 7th in qualifying. Still, Fraser isn't fully giving up. He says he might still compete in the second race depending on how he feels. Back to you.
Last year when this event didn't happen because of flooding, Fraser was one of the pace setters. Now he has a better Suzuki, an ex-Dumas Suzuki, but unfortunately I think the weight of expectations has been very tough on a guy who we thought was going to make the podium here.
As we see a current Dumas Ducati get passed by the Van Dolders home team BMW of Ben Young, so up into third, the reigning Canada Cup champion goes. But Jordan Zoke holding on to second right now. Sam Garand with the slick rear leads us here in race number 7. Sam Garand continues to lead, but calling down in 5th. Philip DeGama Blanchette. We'll talk more about him in just a moment, but for now, let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said, who is with Paul McDonald. Unfortunate, a DNF here at AMP.
So you got out the race a little bit early there. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
I felt like I was good. Everything felt good as far as the bike setup. And then I guess partway through the race there, coming down from corner 3 to 4, the back end just basically stepped out sideways and I drifted the whole way down that hill. I wasn't sure what was up with that. I wasn't sure if it was just because it was drying there or not. Coming off the back straight there, the back end almost stepped out sideways coming up the hill. So I was like, all right, something's up here. So put my arm out and got off the track. So it's kind of disappointing. I was feeling like I could have made some moves here later in the race, but yeah, I guess that's how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Well, how it goes has been a positive lately because he had a really good run at his home track at Edmonton. Things have been trending the right way, so it's a shame that he pulls out, and he's been figuring out how to ride in the wet too, which is a kind of a new thing for him.
Alex Dumas sitting there in 4th, but up aside the number 101 of Jordan Zoke as he'll take over 3rd position. Zoke returning to form in better health here this season. Great to see, but passed by Dumas that time. And again, Philip DeGama Blanchette refuses to go away off the back of this 4-pack of riders that we have typically seen running at the front this season.
Well, the last lap that Phil did was 1/10 off the pace being set by our leader. So on a 636 Kawasaki against a fleet of very well-ridden 1000cc, 190 horsepower Superbikes when he probably has 118 horsepower. Obviously the conditions and the tire choice play into that, but fantastic effort from Phil, who really has no business being part of this battle.
Ben Young, you can see there in turn number 2, kind of fighting the BMW, muscling it to try and straighten it up as Sam Garand starting to stretch his legs a little bit here. Down into turn 4 they go, head towards the back straight. Does Ben Young have the ability in the current tire setup to try and track down his BMW teammate?
I think he absolutely has it, but the problem is he is our points leader, right? So taking big chances, I think right now Ben's concern is just to not be in the middle of a really aggressive battle. So this sort of stationary situation between 1st and 3rd, and of course that would be 2nd place I'm talking about, is a good fit for him. And I think that probably everybody behind our leader gambled or considered, gambling, doing something very similar because Jordan did it a few years ago at Motorsport. Ironically, it was Sam Garand who suffered the most in what was a fantastic battle to the end on a wet track.
The track is really starting to dry out there. You can see from our drone shot is beginning of the race, Garand was at 118, then 117. A couple of laps in the 116s. He is now comfortably into the mid-115s here as he begins lap number 11.
And the interesting thing is, Garand obviously has to be careful. You can see him taking very different lines. He's got to nurse that front tire a little bit, but everybody behind him is nursing both their tires, so they have a little bit more to worry about. And of course, it's the rear tire you tend to overheat the sooner. because once you start feeling the traction of the drying track, you start spinning that rear tire, and that's going to happen sooner with a treaded tire than with the slick that Garin has.
And behind this front pack of 5 riders, you see in 6th, it's David McKay on the Snow City Cycle ODH Honda Fireblade, and of course Connor Campbell on his Kawasaki, number 814. That is a Rookie of the Year battle between those two.
Yep, both guys coming from our Pro Sport Bike division, strong performers in that class, and definitely people who were expected to do well in Superbike. I'm sure given the conditions, they were hoping to be part of this lead battle, but Garin has just forced the pace just that little bit, and of course part of his forcing the pace is the very unusual line choices he's making that seem to be working for him.
What do you think is on Ben Young's mind right now, Colin, as he's watching Sam Garin take all of these interesting lines and knowing and understanding what the tire situation is as he's in the 114s?
Well, right now he just saw his pit board, so his big concern is how close are they, and the thing is, on your BMW, you can hear a Ducati when it's right behind you, so unfortunately he knows what's coming.
Alex Dumas is hunting. We'll have more from AMP when we return. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Canadian Kawasaki Motors, Pro Cycle, and Gulf Race Fuels. Lap number 14 of 18 here in Shubenacadie. Sam Garin continues to lead out front. You can see there's more dry than there is wet at this point. I think anybody behind Sam Garin just hoping that even the slightest bit of drizzle might come down. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, but Ben Young against Alex Dumas is where we're focused right now for second spot.
Yeah, Dumas right on top of Young. Don't forget, these guys have had a terrific rivalry the last 3 years, but Dumas was the factory Suzuki representative. Now he's sort of semi-retired, come back to join the Econoloop Ducati squad. So quite a different situation, and Dumas really still learning about that V4 Ducati. Of course, Ben Young is well entrenched as the top gun with BMW.
Earlier this season at Grand Bend, it was Sam Garin with his first career GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class victory out in front right now. And Colin, I want your thoughts on this. Improving lap times every single one of the 14 laps that we have raced thus far. What does that tell you about Sam?
It means he's working the tire, right? He's feeling the traction, trying to decide what's possible, and I'm sure he's worried that if his tire choice turns out to be problematic, that these guys are going to come and catch him. But of course, these guys are wets front to back. They're much more likely to encounter problems, and at this point, I guarantee you all these guys are top 3 in this shot. That takes us back to 4th place. Oak are squirming around plenty, and probably has you reaching to slightly adjust the traction control with the hope you can make life a little easier on the tire.
As they make their way up the hill here towards the start-finish straight once again, as the hot pit full at Atlantic Motorsport Park, and down into turn 1 they go. Ben Young still holding off Alex Dumas, and Zoke trying to latch onto these two. We've seen this a couple of times throughout this season as we're already at the midway point of Zoke trying his best to hang on and be in the fray should anything happen.
If you have the desire to slide your tire, these 3 are definitely steering with the throttle as those rain tires start to wear. But remember, up front is Garin. He's had 2 crashes so far, lots of adventures, some problems switching around his thumb brake and the electronic controls, which caused some of those incidents. But amazing that Garin, on top of all of that and all the repairs they've had to do, took the big tire gamble. But right now, it sure looks like it's going to pay off.
As they make their way down the back straight here once again, Garin out in front of this breakaway now, 3-pack fighting for 2nd and 3rd on the podium, it looks like, with Garin stretching things out with the slick rear tire.
And about the only tire issue that isn't evolving right now is Garin's slick tire. It's quite happy with how the conditions have evolved. Everybody else is nursing their tires, but unlike a lot of situations where you're looking for the puddles, right now these guys are okay with how hot their tires are. They're just looking for the finish of the race.
Looking for his 2nd career GP Bikes Pro Superbike victory here as the battle starts to heat up between Alex Dumas and Ben Young. And see a couple of times, almost looks like Young has to come over rumble strips on his exit here down through turn number 2.
Yeah, Young has his own route, and he is very disciplined in his lines compared to pretty much everyone else. Right now, Dumas shopping, right? He wants to make a pass, and look at that, we have jumped back to our leader.
Sam Garin continues to make his way around, managing that rear tire. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said, who is with crew chief Steve Beattie.
All right, so the rain brought some changes for the riders, including the tires. Sam seems to be the only one with the slick tires. Can you tell us about the thought process?
We just had a quick blast of rain. The track was wet, but if you looked at the radar, it was running right past us to the north. So Sam's call, he gambled. We put a rain front, a slick rear. You just pretty much need to go about 3 laps. Make sure the track starts to dry up, and as you can see, every lap he does is getting faster and faster and faster. I think we're the only one that did that gamble. Fingers crossed, keep it on 2 wheels, bring it home.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bringing it home is the goal right now for Sam Garan. And again, he's had his adventures throughout this weekend, but he's got one final lap in order to get it done.
Looking for his second win, Slammin' Sammy. The 1-win list is extensive. The second win list is shorter and sweeter because those are people who've had more success on the tour. Probably not going to be the last time he wins. And of course, we're putting the announcer's curse on him by talking about the win when he still is trying to complete the lap, and he still hasn't got to the section of tracks that he's crashed in already so far this year.
Makes his way down through turn 4 here, as that is where he's had some issues. Of the 44 different winners in GP Bike's Pro Superbike feature class history, only 26 have done it more than once. Sam would very much like to join that, but one more time down the back straight in order to get it accomplished.
On board is really good, and you get a sense of the tough decisions you have to make, and the fact that the topography here, there is absolutely no flat piece of track whatsoever, but when the wind comes up, it helps things to dry.
As we see Dumas in the battle here on the final lap with Ben Young. Important points as they go down into the back half of this lap. Look at the eyes and the clear visor of Ben Young there, trying to figure out where he can get back on the throttle and carry it over the top. But for Sam, it's a season so nice, he's now won twice. Garan, your winner at Atlantic Motorsport Park, as Alex Dumas holds off Young for second.
Dumas still looking for that first win, but in his second weekend riding the Ducati, that is an excellent effort.
Tremendous job by Garan as he gets his second career victory, and also it moves BMW out of a lock with Suzuki for 64 manufacturer victories, second on the all-time wins list behind Kawasaki.
Looking deep into our results, we mentioned Philippe de Gama Blanchette on that Kawasaki 636. David McKay doing a good job for Honda. Connor Campbell continues to show progress with the Kawasaki. Bernhard with a decent result, and Brian Wurzel from the Alberta region joining the series for another round after racing at our last race in Edmonton.
Sarah Said is with our winner.
All right, Sam, you came in first after the rain delay. How do you feel right now?
Oh my God, it's a surprise. I didn't expect that. I crashed yesterday in qualification, crashed this morning in the practice. I was just on the concrete curb looking at the guys. I was like, how am I going to do? But Mother Nature just opened up the skies, and we put a slick rear tire, which was a kind of tricky bet, but it worked, and I'm so happy about it. So thanks a lot to EFC, BMW, Motorrad, Steve Beatty, 26 suspension, GMR, Molloy, Roulette, and United Rental. Thanks a lot.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Sam with his second victory, you see him there. Only Ben Young has more this season, and now Garan comfortably in second spot in the championship.
Dumas climbing up to fourth on only his second weekend with the Ducati. Got to talk about McKay versus Campbell. The two veterans of Pro Sport Bike, our middleweight aces, are doing very well in their first serious campaigns in the feature class.
Rookie of the Year will be hotly contested all season long. Could Sam Garan give Ben Young a push for the championship? We'll find out after a successful first race here at AMP for number 2.